There is a very specific, um, a very weird tension that exists in pretty much every modern office.
Mm-hmm.
On one side, you have the culture,
Mm-hmm.
the ping pong table in the lobby that no one really
Or
uses.
the dusty foosball table, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you've got the guy in the cubicle who, like, frantically minimizes a window when you walk past.
The classic alt-tab panic. We've all been there.
We've all been there. And usually we judge these two things completely differently. The ping pong table is, good culture, and the solitaire player is slacking off.
Right.
But we've got a stack of research here today that suggests we are, well, completely wrong about both of them.
We are. We're looking at a brand new paper. It was just published this year, 2025, by Quentin Alvarez. It's called Play at Work, Issues and Counter Effects.
Okay.
And the big takeaway here isn't just about whether games are fun or a distraction. It's that play in the workplace is actually a political struggle.
A political struggle. I mean, that feels like a heavy term for Candy Crush.
It sounds dramatic, I know. But Alvarez argues that if you really look at who is playing and how they're playing and who allows the playing, you basically get an X-ray of the power dynamics in that company.
So it's a diagnostic tool.
It's a diagnostic tool, exactly.
So our mission today is to decode that X-ray. We aren't just talking about, gamification. We're going to look at the 4 ways play happens at work, from the factory floor all the way up to the CEO's office, and figure out what it tells us about survival, productivity, and sometimes even humiliation.
And to do that, we kind of have to throw out an old idea first. There's this philosophical stance going back to the 1930s from the philosopher Lane that says play and work are total opposites.
Like oil and water.
Yeah. If you are playing, you just aren't working, period.
Which, to be fair, is what most managers still think today. If you have time to lean, you have time to clean, that whole thing.
Right. But the research shows they're actually deeply, deeply entangled. And usually the people who get this the best are the ones doing the most boring, repetitive jobs you can imagine.
And this brings us to case A in our breakdown. The workers introducing play, kind of secretly. And I was surprised to see how far back this goes. This is not a smartphone thing.
Not at all. To really get this, we have to go back to the 1950s and the work of Donald Roy. He spent time studying factory workers doing incredibly repetitive machine labor.
Like what kind of stuff?
Punching press buttons thousands of times a day. And to stop their brains from, melting, they invented something called banana time.
Banana time. Okay, you have to explain that.
It was this structured series of interruptions. One worker would steal a banana from another guy at the exact same time every single day. Then they'd have peach time, then window time.
That sounds silly.
It sounds silly to us, but Roy found that without these little ritualized games, the workers just couldn't handle the monotony.
So it wasn't about avoiding work, it was
about enabling work. Precisely. Roy used a French term, tenant le coup. It loosely means holding on or coping. The game gives you a tiny psychological goal. I just have to make it to banana time. That makes the whole shift bearable.
It gives meaning to a meaningless timeline.
Yes.
And the source material brings this right into the modern day with garbage collectors. This example really stuck with me because I think I've actually seen this happen on my street and just never realized what I was looking at.
This is from Stefan Lillet's observations in 2008. He watched ripers, the garbage collectors, turning their routes into a sport.
How so?
Well, they'd treat trash bags like basketballs, trying to hit the truck's hopper from a distance, or they'd see who could load a bin the fastest.
The Kobe moment, but with refuse.
Right. But here's the nuance. They weren't just doing it for fun, they were doing it to speed up. If they turned the route into a game, they finished faster and got to go back to the depot early. So in this case, the workers' secret game actually increased productivity.
But isn't there a flip side to that? I feel like if I'm a worker and I realize I can game the system, I might use it to work less, not more.
Absolutely. That's the double-edged sword. The sociologist Michael Burroway documented this with factory workers, who would sometimes agree on a cap. They would gamify the process of not working too hard.
Because if they work too hard, management would just raise the quota.
Exactly. So the game became, how do we look incredibly busy while making sure we only produce exactly 100 widgets? No more, no less. It's a form of resistance.
A collective rebellion disguised as a work rhythm.
Yeah. And in both cases, speeding up to go home early or slowing down to protect the quota, the workers are seizing control. They're taking a job with zero agency and creating a simulation of it.
That's fascinating.
And in high-risk jobs, think nuclear power plants, deep-sea drilling experts argue this is actually a safety mechanism. You can't maintain 100% terror-level vigilance for 8 hours straight.
You'd burn out.
You'd burn out, you make a fatal error. You need the game to regulate your anxiety. If you strip away that play, you don't get a focused worker, you get a dangerous one.
Okay, so that's the worker playing games to survive. Let's flip the power dynamic. What happens when the boss is the one introducing the game? This is case B, and this is where we get into that buzzword of the decade, gamification.
Right, and this is where we see a split in the philosophy. On one hand, you have the cool office model Google, Silicon Valley, the ping pong tables, the nap pods.
The please don't ever go home because your life is here now model.
A little cynical, but yeah, pretty accurate. The goal there is retention and conviviality, making the office feel like a club so you stay longer.
But there's a darker side.
There is. We call it the productivity model.
This is that Amazon warehouse example from the paper, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Imagine you are packing boxes. It's boring, it's backbreaking. But management puts a screen in front of you. Every box you pack deals damage to a virtual dragon. Or maybe you're racing a virtual car against your colleague in the next aisle.
On the surface, that sounds sort of fun. I mean, better than just packing boxes in silence.
For the first hour, maybe. But the paper calls this out as infantilization. You're treating adult professionals like toddlers who need a shiny object to do their chores.
And it isn't voluntary.
It's not voluntary. You can't opt out of the dragon fight if it's tied to your employment. And the stakes are real. If you lose the game, you don't just get a game over screen.
You might get fired.
You might get fired for missing your quota. It weaponizes the fun parts of play points, leaderboards, to squeeze more labor out of people.
There's a specific example in the source that I found both hilarious and terrifying. The Coca-Cola Space Invaders machine.
Oh, this is a classic. A piece of serious modding from 1983. Coca-Cola commissioned a modified version of the arcade game Space Invaders for a sales convention.
And what did they modify?
They changed the little invading aliens to the letters P-E-P-S-I.
So you're literally blasting your competitor out of the sky. Die, Pepsi, die!
Exactly. But here's the kicker, and this tells you everything about the management mindset. They were terrified that people would actually enjoy it too much.
And waste time.
Yeah. So they hard-coded a limit. The game would strictly automatically end after 3 minutes.
Just enough time to brainwash you into hating the competition, but not enough time to waste company money.
It highlights the tension perfectly. Management wants the energy of play, the engagement, the dopamine. But they're terrified of the distraction of play.
And this leads to these things backfiring, like that Lego example in the research. This one felt like a logic puzzle.
That's a perfect case of gamification gone wrong. So a company wanted to encourage innovation. They set up a contest. Employees would vote on each other's ideas. Winner gets a prize.
Sounds standard enough. May the best idea win.
But the employees were smart gamers. They looked at the rules and realized, wait a minute, if I vote for a good idea from my colleague, that colleague might win the prize instead of me.
But if I vote for a bad idea,
I have a better chance of winning myself. So everyone started strategically voting for the worst ideas to sabotage the competition.
that's incredible. The game incentives completely destroyed the company's goal.
Instead of surfacing innovation, it filtered for the worst ideas and created this toxic rivalry.
It really seems like whenever management tries to force fun, it just gets weird. The source also talks about using games for hiring, like escape rooms, to test leadership skills.
Yeah, this is getting really common, but the expert critique in the paper is pretty scathing. They mention a study from ENS, the Civil Aviation School. They found students who were aces at air traffic control. Video games often completely fell apart in real-life control towers.
Because a game has a reset button and a real plane crash doesn't.
The stakes change the psychology entirely. A good gamer isn't necessarily a good employee, plus there's a big ethical issue.
What's that?
The source notes that sometimes recruiters will hide in the escape game group, anonymously, to spy on candidates.
That feels like entrapment. Let's see how you handle stress while we lie to your face about who we are.
It builds distrust from day one. If your first interaction with a company is a trick, what does that say about the culture?
Okay, let's move to the third quadrant. We've done workers playing secretly to survive, that's case A.
Right.
Bosses using games legally to boost productivity, case B. Now let's talk about the illicit side, the things you are really not supposed to be doing.
This brings us right back to your guy playing solitaire. The paper cites a stat that something like 80% of people admit to playing games at work. We call it cyberloafing.
But is it just laziness?
Yeah.
Is it just people stealing time because they can get away with it?
Rarely. Alvarez breaks this down into two main psychological causes: bore-out and burnout.
I know burnout, but bore-out is a great term.
It's the opposite of being overworked. It's what happens when you are placardisé, put on the shelf. Maybe your company is restructuring and they haven't fired you, but they haven't given you any work either.
So you're just sitting at a desk for 8 hours with nothing to do.
Right. That sounds almost more painful than being busy. It's psychologically corrosive. The game solitaire, Candy Crush, whatever. It fills that existential void. It gives you a task when you have none.
And on the other side, burnout is playing too. What? Come down?
Yes. It's a mechanism called homeostasis. It's a biological term for returning to a state of balance. If your job is high stress, high demand, your brain needs a regression. It needs to do something simple and repetitive to numb out for 5 minutes. It's a form of self-medication.
So if a manager sees an employee playing a game, the knee-jerk reaction is, you're fired. But the correct reaction might be, is this person bored to death, or are they on the verge of a nervous breakdown?
Exactly. The game is the symptom, not the disease. And bosses are not immune to this either. We have to talk about the Bill Gates anecdote. It's just too good.
This was my favorite part of the research. Bill Gates in the 90s, running Microsoft, one of the most powerful men on the planet.
And the man was obsessed with Minesweeper. So addicted that he was losing productivity. It got so bad he uninstalled it from his own computer.
But the addiction was too strong.
He would sneak into his colleagues' offices to play it on their machines when they weren't looking.
So what happened? How did Microsoft survive the Minesweeper crisis?
A subordinate actually had to write a script, a bot, to play the game perfectly and set a completely unbeatable high score.
So they broke the game for him.
They broke the game for him, so he'd give up trying to beat the score and go back to running the company.
That is incredible. A subordinate having to game the boss just to get him back to work. But there's a much, much darker version of the boss playing in the paper. This is case D. This isn't Bill Gates playing a game. This is the boss playing with the employees.
This is the most disturbing quadrant. It's about dominance. The source details a story about a chamber of commerce where the staff was forced to learn and perform a choreographed dance.
Oh no, mandatory fun.
But it wasn't fun. They were terrified. Refusing to dance was seen as insubordination. So you have these professional adults fearing for their jobs, forced to perform like trained animals for the amusement of management.
That's just humiliation.
Right.
It stops being play and starts being something else entirely.
And the paper connects this to biological studies of rats. In rat colonies, a dominant rat will force a submissive rat into a play fight. But it's not real play.
What do you mean?
The submissive rat knows it must lose. It has to submit to the game to stay part of the group.
So if your boss forces you to do a team-building scavenger hunt, or the boss somehow always wins, that's not morale building. That's a dominance ritual.
It's asserting ownership over your body and your dignity. It says, I control you, even when we're supposed to be having fun.
That is a chilling thought. So, okay, we have these 4 very different scenarios. How do we synthesize all this? The paper offers a model, right? GAMER.
Yes, and I appreciate that the author admits he used ChatGPT to help come up with the acronym.
Yeah, points for honesty.
It stands for governance, activity, modality, efficiency, and resilience. But frankly, the acronym matters less than the graph it creates.
Okay, let's try and visualize this for everyone. Imagine a simple XY graph.
Right. The horizontal axis is productivity. On the far left, you're slowing things down. We call that regulation.
Okay.
On the far right, you're speeding things up, improvement.
Got it. And the vertical axis.
The vertical axis is the dynamic. At the top is governance. That's asserting power and control. And at the bottom is resilience. That's just coping and surviving.
Okay, so you can take any company, look at their games, and plot the boss, let's call them a circle, and the worker a triangle on this map.
Exactly. And the distance between them tells you everything about the health of the company. So let's take a traditional workplace. The boss, the circle, is in the top right. They want governance and high productivity.
Makes sense.
But the worker, the triangle, is in the bottom left. They want resilience and to regulate the pace.
So they're pulling in opposite directions. That's the classic capital versus labor tension.
Exactly. But now look at a toxic workplace. The boss is at the very top, but centered. They care only about governance and power. They don't even care about productivity anymore.
That's the force dance.
That's the force stance. And the worker is at the very bottom, just trying to survive the abuse.
What about that rivalry scenario?
That's where both the boss and the worker are in that top right quadrant. They both want power, and they both want high performance. This is the Game of Thrones scenario.
Or like a boiler room sales floor.
Perfect example. A subordinate is trying to outperform the boss to take their job. It's high energy, but it's incredibly unstable. It's not collaboration, it's war disguised as a contest.
It strikes me that this model, it stops us from asking the wrong question. We shouldn't be asking, is this game fun? We should be asking, where are the players on the map?
That is the core insight.
Yeah.
Alvarez calls play a perfect servant. You can't ban it. It's just human nature. If you ban phones, people will make games out of paper clips.
Right.
But you can observe it. Play is the canary in the coal mine.
So if you're a manager, don't just crack down on the solitaire player.
No. Ask yourself, why are they engaging in resilience behavior? Are they bored, meaning bore out, or are they fried, meaning burn out?
And if you're a worker, you have to look at the fun activities your boss plans. Is it actually about wellness? Or is it a disguised productivity quota? Or even worse, a dominance ritual?
Once you see that GAMER graph, you see the office completely differently. Every leaderboard, every employee of the month contest, every hidden browser window is a data point on that map.
It reveals the invisible contract.
The invisible contract between the employee and the employer. Yeah.
It certainly makes me think twice about challenging anyone to a game of ping pong in the lobby. You have to ask, what's the real game we are playing here?
And more importantly, can you afford to win?
A dangerous question indeed. Well, that's all for this deep dive into the hidden politics of workplace play. We hope you navigate your next office game with a little more strategy.
Stay resilient.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.